On September 1st, 1939, Nazi Germany invaded the city of Danzig. This and the resulting invasion of Poland was seen as an aggressive act by Allied forces, subsequently justifying the declaration of war against Germany, and leading into World War II. Over the coming years, Poland would be split up and occupied by Axis powers, and later belong to the USSR. Fed up with communist rule, over 9 million Polish citizens joined the Solidarity movement and overthrew their communist-controlled government. But a fractured sense of national identity still remained and has led to the rise of nationalist groups within modern-day Poland. At the end of World War I, the Treaty of Versailles was enacted. This treaty stripped Germany of 25,000 square miles, 7 million people, and $5 billion in reparations. This had massive economic impacts, such as currency inflation. Some of the land taken away from Germany was put under the protection of the League of Nations. This was the case for the city of Danzig. The oppressive nature of the treaty made many Germans resent those who enacted it. Some political leaders saw these tensions as an opportunity to advance their agenda. A notable example was Adolf Hitler, who started out as a member of the Nazi Party, speaking out against the Treaty of Versailles. He used this to leverage supporters to his party's side. Hitler was able to appeal to the downtrodden people of Germany and sparked intense nationalism within the populace, as well as amassing support. The Nazi Party gained power and influence in Parliament, and on January 30th, 1933, Hitler was declared Reich Chancellor. On March 23rd, the Enabling Act of 1933 was enacted, which allowed the Nazi Party to make laws without Parliament's consent. On August 2nd, 1934, Hitler effectively merged the offices of party leader, head of state, and chief of government into one. The reign of the Führer had begun.
Nazis had come in August in 1940, and the first thing they did is they went to all the Jewish business places and they cleaned them out, like they were shopping, pretend shopping. That the bill is that big already. Are you sure you're not done yet? And they knocked him over the head and they shot him.
After Hitler had achieved absolute control, he focused on reclaiming land lost in the Treaty of Versailles. Some of the land was given up very easily through political means, as in the cases of Austria and Sudetenland, but Danzig was very different. Danzig had been the subject of much debate prior to the start of the war. Germany was constantly deliberating with Poland over a compromise where Danzig would become a part of the Reich. Germany had first explored the possibility of building an autobahn between Berlin and East Prussia, which would include Danzig, but this was quickly turned down by Poland as they did not trust the motives of German government. Later, Germany sent many proposals to Poland, but none of these were ever released. Finally, Hitler had delivered an ultimatum declaring that peace be established in Poland under the condition that Poland give Danzig to Germany, and relinquish the voting rights of ethnically Polish people within, while also granting citizenship to Germans born there. Poland refused under the impression that they would lose access to the sea or be subjugated as a German satellite state. After Germany forcefully annexed Prague, Bohemia, and Moravia, Britain and France had officially stated that any more forceful German expansion would be met with full-scale war. Hitler had decided on allying with the Soviet Union. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact was signed by the foreign ministers of Germany and the Soviet Union on the 23rd of August, 1939. On the surface, this was just seen as a non-aggression treaty, but it had been secretly agreed upon that Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and Romania would be captured and split up amongst the two countries according to their own interests. With the Soviet Union backing Germany in the event of a war and helping in their planned invasions, it would be very difficult for France and England to stop them. Germany was primed and ready for the invasion of Poland, when on the night of August 31st, 1939, a German radio station was attacked in the city of Gliwice, Poland. Allegedly, German soldiers dressed as Polish nationals took control of the Gliwice Tower and broadcasted an anti-German message in Polish. To make the event seem more convincing, bodies were planted at the tower so that it looked like the saboteurs were killed. Though the incident is widely regarded as a false flag story by German soldiers, there is still controversy among historians whether this was the case or it was actually Polish soldiers who attacked the station. On the morning after the incident, Germany began their invasion of Poland under the pretext of gaining living space for racial Germans. This idea of expanding upon German land was called Lebensraum, or living space in English. When Danzig was finally introduced into the Reich, the majority of the city went willingly, since 90% of the population was German. The city already had a National Socialist government prior to the invasion, since there was a major Nazi Party support. Germany finally had control of the land they wanted, but France and England declared war the very next day, as they had threatened. Germany continued their march across Poland with preparations of war beginning on the Western Front. The Soviet Union had begun their offensive in eastern Poland on the 17th of September 1939. At this point, Poland's defense was gone, so Germany and the Soviet Union were able to occupy the country without any further resistance. Control of Eastern Europe meant that Hitler could now advance westward without any possibility of becoming surrounded by opposing forces. The Soviet Union was given governing control over all of the land east of the Pisa, Narew, Bug, and Sand rivers, as was promised in the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Germany could now focus all of its efforts on their blitzkrieg, whilst not having to worry about fighting a two-front war. While the westward expansion continued, Poland remained an important landmark. Most of the Holocaust took place in Poland, especially Warsaw, where it is estimated that more than 3 million Jews were exterminated. Polish people were equally oppressed, having their homes and possessions taken and given to ethnic Germans who settled in the newly occupied country. This trend continued in Poland all the way until Operation Barbarossa on the 22nd of June 1941, where Germany began their invasion of the Soviet Union with the goal of controlling the oil-rich lands of the Caucasus Mountains, while also having access to Soviet agriculture as a way to feed an army. Hitler wanted to take advantage of the unprepared Soviet army to seize more Lebensraum quickly with minimal casualties. The German army made the mistake of starting their conquest during the cold season in the Soviet Union, which severely impacted their effectiveness. Their offensive was ultimately stifled by the Soviet counterattacks. Poland was in the middle of the eastern fighting and suffered the most in terms of sheer civilian casualties during various bombings, skirmishes, and targeted attacks along the German-Soviet border. As the war came to a close, it was apparent that Poland was under the control of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was able to placate the Polish minority that still existed in their country and elsewhere in Europe by allowing them back into their land, but Poland was still under communist rule by a strong minority of Soviet leaders. In December 1970, tensions were high in the city of Danzig, which was now called Dansk, since the Polish majority referred to it by its Polish name rather than the German one. The pressures caused by communist rule led to anti-regime demonstrations within Dansk, which were met with military and police who fired upon the demonstrators, killing several dozen people. These protests ended in their current communist leader being ousted. Later, under communist rule in 1980, the Solidarity Trade Union was formed. It was the first non-communist trade union in any Warsaw Pact country. In 1982, after being declared illegal, the Solidarity Trade Union was shut down by the Soviet government. Later, in 1988, a string of work strikes and protests demanded that the support of Solidarity be declared legal. Finally, in April 1989, Solidarity was recognized as legal by the Polish government. Politicians that were supported by Solidarity rose in power during the 1989 elections and held 99 out of the 100 seats in their newly formed Senate. This led the Polish United Workers' Party creating a coalition government with Solidarity in August of 1989, and Tadeusz Mazowiecki became the first non-communist leader to govern Poland since the late 1940s. The rise of this new market economy led to their separation from the declining USSR, beginning their days as an independently governed country. Over time, land conflicts and struggles for independence in Poland have been focused around the city of Danzig. The changing population and identity of the city has sparked many conflicts ending in either bloody endings or extreme political unrest. The many conflicts and compromises created in this city make it a very important example of conflicts and compromises throughout history.